Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. Did you ever think about buying one of these and wondered, what could I do with it to make it better? Well, this is what I started with here, and I turned around and done a bunch of modifications to it. I'm going to go over it all here now. Never spent a lot of money on it, bought a couple of things off Amazon, a bit of electronics, but the rest of it I made from stuff that I scrounged up, scrap steel, stuff I had lying around. So I'm going to take you down and show you 7 steps that I done to make this from that. Stick around. So these are the old cheap universal bead rollers. You get them anywhere. This one here came from Jegs, I think. That's where this one come from. Come from Jegs. But they're basically all the same. All the dies are in here. This is one of the reasons why this is pretty cool, because there's some dies, step dies in here that I'm after. And for making floor pans and whatnot. So, but the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to make this stronger. And we're going to mount it on a stand. So then I got it here permanently, whatever. So got a piece cut off here that I've already sized up, and that's what I'm going at there. But before I got into that, I started sizing everything up, trying to think about how I'm going to run this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run a piece up through here first. And what I do when I have that small short piece that I had here it is, I got it marked out. I'm going to drill 2 holes through this now. These here are 1 inch thick. I'm going to do 1 inch and 3/8, 1 inch and 1/8, 1 and 1/4. And I'm going to do 1, so as this 1 3/8. That'll give it room for it to move on the end. I want it a piece to pass through that there, so I can weld it on there, and this will all slide through where it'll come down this way. And I'm going to run a piece through here, and a piece along the top for strength. And that's the whole goal, what I'm planning on doing. I got that all set up there now, and if you see what I'm talking about there, I got it made now, so that'll swing. So now I got to measure this one and get that one cut off. I cut it off, but it's going to be a bit too long. This guy's going to go there. I got to shorten that now just a bit so I can actually fit that one in there. So I'll get that one cut off now and get that fitted. So here's what I come up with. As you can see, this one here passes right through this one here. This will be welded to this. All this will be welded, and everything will be welded to this here, okay? I'm trying to get this as close as I can to the middle in terms of strength-wise as I can. And up here I was playing around with the idea of getting another piece of this and run lengthways, but I remembered I still had this angle iron here, which is the same height anyway. And all I'm doing is I'm going to weld that here, along this here, and along there, and up along there. That'll give strength. The thing with it is I can still move this one, and I have an opening here on this side here, same as the other. So that way the metal can pass through. There's something there, a bit of support or something very close to the edge here. I figured with the piece of angle iron up here, this here and this here will give it a lot of strength. And then this here up here with the 2 dimensions on it, which is like 2.5 inches up across there, that should give a thickness to it, right? So I think this here should be strong enough. So I got everything cleaned up here, all the bits and pieces, all done. My first thing I'm going to do now is I'm trying to put this together as much as I can before I weld to this. And what I figure is for sure is 2 of these are going to have to go together first. 2 of these here. I'm going to have weld 2 of them together. And then this one here, I think I'm going to have to weld on after the fact. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. So I'll end up welding 2 of these together, welding them onto down to this here, and then I'll weld that piece on after. So I got it all clamped together here. I squared this up with this here. So that's squared up. I made sure they were centered in here as well. And then I mounted this piece here and squared that up to this here. It made sure that it was up enough that the head clearance is on this here. So then when I rotate everything, everything rotates freely, okay? That's the way everything rotates there, and everything's rotating nicely. So I got that ready to go. I'm going to take this side off so I can get in here and weld. And I'm going to tack weld this here on the 4 corners, let it cool down. And I'm going to take this off here and I'm going to weld this up completely and get this all done. So that's done. I haven't got to worry about it. So I got that welded up there. Going down through there, and on this side here, I'm letting it cool off now, and I'll flip it over and weld it on the inside, so that's done. Haven't got to worry about that. So I welded the inside, then I grinded it all flat because I got to keep this all level. And then what I went and did is over here on this side here, turn that in the light. I did is I grinded all this down here because this is where the metal's going to be going in through. And I wanted to get it back as far as I can because this do overlap up here a small bit. It doesn't go back as far as this. It probably comes like my fingernail is there. It probably comes to there. On that here. I'm not too concerned about that little bit. If you wanted to, you can get really foolish. You can cut this out and put a pipe in there and have it so it falls back and la la la. I'm not good at that, okay? Now, next thing I got to do now is I got to put this together, position this on this here, and put a couple of quick tacks on it just to hold it there so that I can get this positioned. I'm going to weld this onto the I-beam, and that way it doesn't move, and then I can start welding the whole thing together. So here's where I'm to. I went and put only 3 tacks on this, just temporary tacks. I positioned that with all the bars in place, tacked it in place, and I took it apart because I needed a part for this here. Now I turn around, I got my I-beam taken up, nice straight flat edge here. I got this positioned on this now, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to weld this to this, okay? I welded everything but this section here because I don't want to go interfering where the mounting block is to, so I haven't never welded here. And in here, then after I welded, I grind it off. I'll finish it off when I get to the part of it, but I'm not going to be able to get it when I get this piece on her. But I got it fully welded on, solid, all the way around. As you can see, it's all welded across the back there and everything, and I grind it off here, and I V'd this out in here, and then I welded it up because I got to grind that flat again, then I welded the bottom side underneath here. So now this is what I'm at here now, is putting this piece on. I went and put 2 pieces of angle iron on and tack welded them on just for jigs so that you can actually line everything up, keep everything flush. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process again. Weld all this on here, inch at a time. I'm going to weld that right to that there, solid. So I'll give that strength. And then I should have all the bracing done. Let's get this welded. So I got that all welded up. I didn't bore you with that again. You see me enough welding. I got that all welded on. There it is. Went ahead and I cleaned everything up and grinded everything flat on this here. Ran the grinder over to get any slag running off it. Let's see what else. And grind it all, of course, the welds and everything off it. I'm pleased with it. I had to tweak it a small bit. I won't lie to you. But I had to put a lot of strain on it. And there it is there. It lines up nice. Okay. And the flexibility of it, if you look here, there's very little or nothing there. I'm trying to move all that. That's plenty strong. So that works out best kind. So the next modification I want to do involves this here, the going up and down of this here. The problem with this is now is that it's got no way to return up. So every time that you put metal in, it's just going to want to fall. I'm going to want some way that I can crank this down, and when I release it, this here will raise up on its own. So going through my secret stash, I found a bunch of stuff. I was over here, I was looking around. That's the original nut out of the bead roller, and I figured I'd like to find an end of this here, so that it could be able to fall. I would have to drill that out and have that so that rotates around. Then I found this, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thread. And it already got one on the end of it, so I can use that to push down with. Then I found a spring that I can compress, and I found a nut that was long enough that I can put with that. I'll probably put a washer or something with it, right, to make that work. This here now is a shifter knob off something, but what is amazing about this is just look at the shift pattern. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, reverse, 5-speed. I got to drill down through this and drill down through that there. So I got this here centered, then I got to drill and tap this here so I can actually thread this into it. Thread this bolt into it. I'll get a nut then that I can use for a jam nut. So that's the first thing I'll do now is get this and this figured out. As you can see, I got the block taken out and I got it marked there now. I drilled a hole, so I'll drill that down pretty a decent way so I can actually get a tap in there and get it tapped to fit this bolt here. All right, I'll get that tapped, and then up here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to drill this one out to a larger hole so that the bolt just slides right on through it freely. I'll get both of them done and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So here's what I got done. It's a bit of fooling around. That's threaded down into there. This here spring that I got here, well, I'm telling you, I was a bit of fooling around with that. What it is, it's off an old storm door. All I did is I just cut it off to the length I wanted. So I needed a hat of some sort to go down over the spring that would fit over the spring, but only had a size as a 3/8 bolt to go down over, so this here will stay centered. I went through my brake hardware bin and I come across these, okay? These here fits over the top of the spring, and what I did is I cut the end off it right here, drilled them out with a 3/8 drill. Well, use the diagram. They're pretty tricky to hold on to. I had to clamp this here in the vise like this and then try to do it all that way. But anyway, I got it done. I got that there drilled out, so the 3/8 bolt fit down it, and I had a head on it, and it'll fit down over the spring, and that kept the spring centered. So now that I got that done, the last thing I want to do now is make a mechanism for here that'll go down here, it'll push down, that'll come up through here. What I'm going to use for that, this is the bolt that was on it, and it just used to go up tight on the bottom of it. It's an old cheap bolt. I found this little old C-clamp in it. Look how small it is, look. Okay. I never used it. It was in my toolbox. I probably picked it up with a bunch of stuff one time before. I'm going to cut this off here, and unscrew that from that there, and take this here and screw that up through here, and get it set up so that I can size up the top side. I can make a handle for it. This is what I come up with, okay? I had 2 nuts left over from the original bolt, and I managed to screw them on. So now I got 2 bolts to go on here. The problem is I want to be able to take this apart, because if I weld anything at the end of this, you'll never get it apart, because these here are pressed on and the ends are rolled over, so I won't be able to get it off. But that's the way it sits in there. I got 2 nuts that'll be jammed together tight like that. I got a sleeve here. Then I'm going to slide over that there, and that'll be welded onto the top nut, okay? And then this nut will jam up in that. That'll be the upper part of the handle. Clamp here, and I drilled that out, so there's a nice shoulder on it. I'm going to use that now as the base for what I was going to do, and I'm just going to come off it here and go straight down. Just do a 90-degree thing. I was trying to find something that had a nice style to it or something. I'm getting over carried away with it here now, so I can weld to that there, and I can, like this here, it'll go pass up through that there. And it'll be threaded on the end of it, and then I can weld to that there, come off of that, and go down into the sleeve, which is right here. There you have a simple little crank. It's a bunch of old bolts, welded together, a bit of sleeve and a nut. Just dress it up. Now, possibly I'd say I could have made that a little bit shorter, down through here more, but that's fine. I can modify that later if I wish to be. But it works fine, works deadly. Closes up the gap there right nice. Lifts it up. Okay. plate is in there now to hold that down. The spring is there to return it. Little crank handle that spins on its own. Nice, neat little feature. All looks tidy, and it's all just made out of scrap I had lying around here. And dressed up the edge of it there, grinded the nut clean right off it, so there's just one nut on it. That just looks like a tapered handle on it. So that's it. That's another feature added to it. Trying to figure out a way that I can turn around and rig this up so that I can actually have it so that I can use it, but then again makes it a lot easier to be stored. This is what I come up with. This here is an engine stand that I've got, I'm willing to say 30 years. It'll be about that long. This pipe will fit down inside of it, and then I'll put a jam nut in it to make it so it doesn't move around. And if you look up here, this is what I got to deal with. This is the same steel up here, just the same piece. Now I'm going to weld this solid here, so it doesn't matter. I'll square that up and weld that on there solid. The problem I had is I didn't want that on this end down here. I want to make it snug, so I ended up cutting it. And how I cut it is I cut it through one side like so on the top here, and this one here. I cut it off there, and I cut it through there, and then I flipped it over to the same thing here and cut it here. So I ended up with two pieces. One was smaller than the other, okay? Now I can get really fancy and cut this and trim it all up, but if you look at that, this one here is smaller than this one here. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to wrap this around this, like so. Clamp it on there, okay? And you can see the way that sticks up. Now, I'm doing that for a reason, because I want this to overlap, like so, and I want something to weld to. Put this on it now. It goes in there. There's a little bit of play in it, so I'm going to drill a hole on the top of it, and put a welding nut on the end of it, and then put a lock nut on it, a bolt on it, so just to tighten it up. I just don't want no movement on it. Another modification done, making use of a tool you already have. What I'm going to do next is probably the most important thing I wanted to always have, and that was to motorize. Here's what I got over here. I went online, I bought all this stuff on Amazon. It's not that expensive, $30, $40 a piece or whatever. This is the inverter. Basically, this takes 110 power from the wall and converts it into 12 volt, because the biggest thing with this is I'm running the actual winch, okay? And then I got this here, this controller. This basically actually is a speed controller, and I can actually slow it down, speed it up. I can make it go backwards and forwards from a little switch. Then I just went out and I got this generic foot pedal, okay? Comes with a cord and everything on it. I ended up cutting it up. It's a nice heavy duty one, so that'll be what I'll be using. Over here, I got the original crank that came on it. I might use it, I don't know. I'm going to cut the handle off it. I'm going to have to see now, because I got to find some way to convert this to this here. Now, all this is here is a 3,000 pound winch that you'd have like for side-by-side or quad or whatever. I'm going to take this all apart, see how it all works, and design some sort of way that I'm going to run this to the bead roller. So that's on there, the coupler's tighten up there, it's on there, the coupler's tighten up there. I can probably shorten this up a bit and make this smaller. I'm not going to, and leave it here just like it is, because this is the way I got it done. Next thing I got to do now is I got to figure out how to mount this. This here will mount like so, and then there's 2 bolts on the back side, back here. 2 bolts back here, that's going to have to mount to that there. All I'm going to do to start off here now is I'm going to take this original bracket. I'm going to cut this off here. and I'm going to bolt that back onto this here because that'll be my mount. And then I'm going to make brackets, get some steel, which I think I got the angle iron here. And I'm going to weld onto this here. That'll actually weld onto the frame of it. And then I'll just turn around and beef it up. Okay, so I got that all mounted. Played around with it, working best kind. I'm not going to reinforce it any more than what's there. That's strong enough. I got the coupler and everything rigged up on it. That's fully welded on there now, all the way around, as you can see. I'm pleased with that. Now this here, I got it in my head, I'm going to mount on above the winch. I'm going to mount it here somewhere. Okay, that's where that's going to be mounted. If I can locate this box in a spot where I'm happy to have it, and I'm thinking about right here somewhere, to go at this point here. And I'm going straight back from here, back to about here somewhere, coming up and coming forward. But it's going to be high up here because I want this here to come up, go forward, and I'm going to drop it down on an angle like that. So here's what I come up with. This is more of that shelving stuff that I had kicking around. It's there stood up in the corner. See sheets of it there. And these sheets were 24 by 24. And what I did is I needed a 24-inch piece to start this off. So I just turned around, marked it all out, bent it all up. This is what I come up with. See in here now, the motor will be inside. The electronic piece will be mounted here. And then I can do all the wiring in here and then have it all run to the back side here. I got it bent up on the vise. Just used the vise to make the bend. I had to bend it in and bend it out. So now I got to flush to that there. I'll mark these here now and drill them out. And drill two of these out. So that way I can take these two now and I can bolt that back on. I'm going to go ahead now and make the piece to go here. And get that ready to go. And have it so I can mount my little panel there. So here's where I'm to. I cut out another piece of that stuff and I bent it up. I made it 3 inches wide. The width of this here. And I just turn around and made it nice and long up here on this end up here. Just cut it off straight. And then I will lay it up in place. And fit it in behind. There's about 3/4 of an inch in behind that there. And then I got a tack welded on here for now. What I'm doing here now is I got this here trying to figure out for the switches. Okay, I got the dial to go in there. And I got this little switch to go in there. So all I'm doing, I had it laid up in place up in here where I wanted to put it. It fits up there nice. And then I figured how far down I can put it. And I can come to about here with the switch. I'm going to put the switch here and put the dial above it up here. So here's what I got done. I took apart the case, okay, and I made this little bracket here, okay. I wanted something to stand off the back of this here so that I can actually screw to it and not have screws hanging out the back of it. So I can actually take it apart. I build everything to take it apart. What I'm going to do then is I got this here bent up. This is about 3/4 of an inch off the thing. Just made from more of that scrap steel. I bent it all up in the vise. And I put 4 holes in the corners of it. Little spot welds. So all I end up doing now is I'll weld these here in place when I get it in place. Or once I got to make sure that this is going to reach right here, and there's lots there because that got to plug in right here. So that'll be fine. So I got it all in place there and all mounted, and I got this switch right here. Right, that's off, left and right. Then there's the dial for speed, turning it up, turn it down. So I got the bracket all made. I got holes put in the end of it. I rounded off the corner up here because I want to round this edge off up here a bit. And then I marked where I wanted the spot welds to go. I'm trying to leave as much of this powder coating on the inside as I possibly can. Weld it on and get this bolted back on the bead roller. And there you have it. I got a spot for that to mount. Spot for that to mount. And there's all standing off everything there. I got lots of room here now. Now what I got to figure out is the wiring. So here we are. I got it all rigged up, wired up. After testing it, the power comes in here from the wall. When you plug it into the wall, the power comes in and goes up along here and goes up to these top 3 here. This is the wire here. It goes in the top 3 on the top side here. That puts 110 into this box. Now everything coming out of this here on the bottom, this here is 12 volts, okay? And what that does then, that feeds 12 volts to whatever item you want to run. Now this, what I got done now is this 12 volt, that runs over and feeds into the speed controller, which is this box here. What that does, that converts, you can actually control the speed of it from these switches up here. Coming out of that, we got a positive and negative, okay? The negative side runs over and goes down to the negative side of the motor. The positive side comes out, goes down, goes into the switch, passes through the switch, comes back out of the switch, and hooks up to the positive side. We'll go over here now and get that on. That gear now is turned off. So when I press on this, there's nothing. Okay? That's a neutral. Either way, there's nothing. So I'll leave it neutral and turn this one on here. And then I can turn the switch one position. Turn this up. I can slow it down, see? I can flip the switch the other way. So on this one here, we're going to be doing all the body, building the body for the bead roller. This large piece of metal is welded on there. It's way too big, it's too wide, it's too high. I welded in along the back side here because I want to leave the outside alone because I got some tight quarters. I'm checking to see that the spring is still going to fit and that the nut for the adjuster handle is still going to clear, right? So I'm good there. So now I can start trimming this up to fit the rest of it so I can start making my second piece. Now that I got it all trimmed off, I never trimmed it off perfect. I didn't mark it, figured this is exactly where it got to be. It's still too long and it's still too high. There you have it. That's made out of 3 pieces. It's got a nice rolled edge on it here. It's got a nice rolled edge on it here. It's got a sharp lip down along here. Right? And this here flows down and just goes out, and that's welded permanently to this here. So this is permanently part of the structure. I went ahead and grinded everything off. Up here on the top side, I had to put a piece in here because the outside panel doesn't, this doesn't end. I want a spot where I can spot weld here. And of course, then I grind it all off. And then I went ahead and I finished the back side. Here you have the back side of it all done. Grinded it all off after I welded it all up, made it nice and smooth, so it looks good. So now that that's all done, I'm going to move on to the next piece, which is this section here. I'm going to start boxing off the back end of that over on the bench. So here's where I'm to. I got this trimmed off down here, trimmed off here. I cleaned everything off and I marked where this corner ends. And I marked it all the way around, and then I trimmed it off over here, and done the same thing down here. Marked it over here, trimmed it off here. Then I got a scrap piece of tin, cut it out of that piece there, and I laid it on top of this here, and I scribed it along here, and scribed it along here, and I grinded it and dressed it, grinded so that fit there. So when I flips this over, and lays this in place right here, and lines it up flat across there, and flat across there, that there will be the same as the other side, hopefully. I'm going to go ahead now and weld that on. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, I got that piece and I turn around and I welded it in across there, and I pulled this apart, welded it in across there. Then I measured it diagonally this way here to make sure the back end of this was square, and I left all this here. I'm not going to cut none of it out yet. The more metal I leaves in there, the better, the stronger this is going to be, okay? So what I did then is I took my time then, I rolled this edge off here and start welding it. I tap it down, weld it, tap it down, weld it. Did it on both sides right across, right? So I weld here, tap it down, weld here, and then go back and forth. Then when I got that done, I welded up solid. I did the same for this side over here. Did the same thing over here. Cut a section out of it. Right here. And I went over to the pipe anvil and I put a couple of rolls in it. And I trimmed it to fit. And that just laps on over the top of that there. And there it is, all grinded up. I went ahead then, I trimmed up this bottom edge down here. Cut that off, rounded out the edges, so I got a nice lip all the way around there now. But if you look at it, it's got a rolled edge now rolling off the edge of it, going down through here. Rolled edge rolling off it, going down through there. So I trimmed these up, and I welded them inside and out, grinded them all off. Got the top one done, got the bottom one done. Now it's got a nice finish across there. I went up back here then, marked it, and I drilled these two holes a little bit bigger because I wasn't fussy on the size of them, still a bit tight. And then I went and drilled 6 locations for spot welds, and so that'll be welded on there. Now I'm over on this side now. I got to step this down right here. So I got that all done. I welded them inside, welded them outside, ground it all off, round off the edges. So it's got a nice step down. Then I went ahead and I drilled spots where I'm doing spot welds too. Drill holes for them. Down here is going to be solid welded and a solid welded along here. So now this will come back and it'll step up. So this now is ready to install. I always prefer spot welds over solid welds, okay? It always looks cleaner when it's all dressed down. That's got a nice little seam going down through there now. There's no 1-inch beads that are stuck out that, you know, you got to deal with and stuff like that. That there's welded on solid now. It's not going to move, and it's very clean looking. Before I go any further, all this is 18 gauge shelving, okay? It's just stuff I got kicking around here. I never went out and bought any steel for this. This is all scrap pieces that I got kicking around here. That's the way I build my stuff, okay? I got to make a cover for this, but one more thing I got to do before it does that is down here, you can see there's a lip here, and then it's like it transitions up to here and it comes across, but just the bottom of the thing of the bead roller hangs down. So I'm going to come straight out from that with a 90, so that way it'll make it a lot easier to mount the panel on it that I can actually mount something to. So I'm going to make a little piece now that'll go along here, and what I'll do is I'll cap the end of it here the same way as capped up here. So I just bent it up, I turned around, put a 90 on it, and I trimmed it and fit it, trimmed it and fit it till it fit right here. That's where I wanted to go. So I got that all welded in, all cleaned up and dressed underneath. I grinded all that down with 24 grinding disc. I capped the end of it here just to clean it up some. And then I just went ahead and I welded it so much, didn't need to weld it all on solid there, and weld it down along here. So now this is uniform right along here, goes straight through here, comes up along here and up along here like this. So it's got a pattern to it. So now what I need to do now is I need to make a cover for this. So I got the piece of metal cut out. Then I went over and I bent up a piece of steel so I could find out exactly where the bends go, okay? When I made the bends over here, I come over here and I bent up this piece of metal here so that it actually followed the bends. All I done is I measured from the first bend on the machine from here. I went over measured it, measured from here back to the end of the machine, and it was 11 3/8. I added an inch. So from here to here, I got 12 3/8, and then I just used this mechanism here to measure my other one, okay? And I just done it that way. I put that straight, and I measured it there, and I marked it up there, and I measured the bowl to make sure I'm the same, and then I turn around and I mark straight lines. So now I just got to go over the bender and bend 2 of these up. So I got it clamped in place there now in a couple of spots. I went and lined up the bends on the top and on the bottom. I had to tweak it a small bit. I got it marked out all the way around. So I can take this off now and I can start trimming it up. I went ahead, I trimmed everything up and I cut it back. You can see there's a nice little roll edge on the outside panel. You can see it's just step back a small bit all the way around just to give it a dressed look. And come down through here. Same one on the bottom. I got the same thing done down here. I had to do a step right here because this here is a different height to this here. The back is a little bit lower. Then I went ahead and I went around and I marked locations. I wanted to bolt this on. This is going to be mounted with screws all the way around. And I want places where I can actually put screws and figure out. And all I did is I took the Where's that to? The scribe, right here. I took a scribe and I measured off a 1/2 inch, and then I scribed the line going along there, all the way along, 1/2 inch line. Then I just came up and I just kind of like eyeballed different locations. I would have liked to have this one here, down here. The problem with this is on the beam, and it's pretty thick, and now notice I'll break off a screw if I screws on into that section of the beam there. But all this here is only in the sheet metal, the pieces that I welded on all the way around. So that'll hold it all in place. And there is the throat cut out. Goes back square, it'll all come out very nice, going along there. And so here it is. Right, gives a nice industrial look to it. Screws in it. That's one thing I never liked about the cheaper Harbor Freight, you know, Princess Auto style bead rollers, is the way they looked and when they were all done and everything. And this modification is something that I always felt, being a guy who always played around with sheet metal, figured you can actually make something to make the actual bead roller look nice. But the one more modification that really wants to have on this here is a table, okay? I want to build a table that'll come out so far where I can actually lay my work on it and I can actually walk it through it as I'm going. And then, you know, I can turn around and make life a lot easier. But I like to have the table so I can lift it up. It'll fold away, so it's not in my way if I just want to do any big pieces or if I want to change a die or something like that. So this little rack here, I'm going to cut it up and get some pieces out of it and size up how I'm going to put this all together. What I went and did is I played around with it. I went and drilled and tapped the post. I drilled and tapped it with a 3/8 tap. Okay. They comes in a kit, but usually when you buy shocks, there's these steel sleeves, like a real thick washer. And I found 3 of them. And what I did is I got one used as a spacer here. I'm going to change all that. But I used them there to weld onto the square stock to use as a point for hinging, okay? This is just that square stock from that framing that I had there. And I just welded it on an angle here. I guesstimated that angle. I never went to hell with it. I figured, okay, this looks good. And I welded it up and test fitted. Yeah, okay. And that's how I found it. So there's no, like, ream or rhyme. Whatever way I did this, I never sat down and overthought it. I just started doing it. So I went ahead now and I got all this here all welded up. Everything's happy with it. I checked it across here. It's nice and level and everything across here. All that is done. So then you saw me up here with some vice grips and angle iron and everything put together. I made up this cross brace. This width here is the same width as back here. I measured the distance back here and it's just a tad under 4 inches. So I made a piece 4 inches and I want to put it up here right in front of the wheel just to give it strength up here, out farther on the end of it. Then what you see me doing, you start seeing me cutting, making this little 3-sided box. You see me show you this here. I made this up. This is all square and everything. This here inside here is a little tad on 4 inches. I went ahead and I marked it down to a certain height and I cut it off. So I'm left with this here. I made all this up on the bench. Now I got the back all figured out. I need to find some way that I need to support this up front here. And what I want to do is I want to put a pin across here. That's the purpose behind this. This is going to weld on like so. And then I'm going to make up some sort of pin mechanism that you can put through here. As you can see, I got a piece of round stock as welded to the body. And then I got 2 pieces of round stock welded to these down bars, okay? Then I got the bit of round pin put through it. Now this can't move from side to side. And I got it set up so that it's resting on top of this here, okay? I wanted to have this as wide as I possibly could because I didn't want this moving from side to side and I didn't want it to rock like this. This won't rock like this now because it's such a long span of a pin to have to go through something, right? I want to have the table no longer than that there, so that'll actually bring up in that there and the table will clear it. So now it's time to get into framing out the table. Well, this is what I found. I've had this here now. This used to be, I had this turned upside down in my old shop, and I used to pour bolts in it, and I used to have assortment and stuff like that. It's a stainless shelf. I don't know where I got it to. I probably got it 15 years. Who knows? I measured the distance and I cut it off. I was concerned about where stainless, it was going to be hard to cut, but no. It cut nice. All I'm going to do here now is I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to put a cross member across here, because these are going to be mounted on through this edge here. And then I'm going to come back here with a brace on the bottom side, and then come in on an angle to that there across here, probably from this back corner, and come forward like this here. And I could too concerned about a little bit overhang over here. I just cut these here and just trimmed them to fit, so they'd fit along here. I'll weld them there and I'll weld them there, and same with this one here. So that's it for the frame for the table. I could do no more reinforcement other than that. And what I'll do then is I'll mount screws on the outside edge there to hold it on to the table. There, I got it all mounted on there. Pull the pin, drop it down, bring it back up again. It clears on the very bottom. Brings up in the pan there and works out good that way. And this is a slip on over it. Still got to trim this stuff. Where I'm to. I went ahead and got everything welded up, and then I grinded all the flat sides and my corners and everything so that it was nice and smooth against this here. There was no like lumps and bumps from the welding and stuff like that. Then I turned around and I fit this in place and marked it on the inside here where this has to be cut out. To drill a 1/8 hole. Then I just start coming up in the sizes until I got one that was close to the lines that I wanted to. And so both of them are pretty good there now. So now that I'm ready to do, I'm going to go cut that center out. So I got the center cut out. I got a cut back here for the V's. You can see the holes that I drilled. So then they'll fold in there and have a nice round corner edge here. What I did then is I got this clamped in the vise now. And I went and looked for a piece of angle iron. Never had it. Had this 2x3. So I got that clamped on the edge, moved back a small bit off the edge, clamped on there, and I got it clamped on there. That way now I got a little makeshift brake now. I'm going to hammer form that over that edge there. But that's it. That's another modification. We're going to get this one finished up once and for all. There's a couple of more modifications I'm going to do to it. I'm going to do it all in this video here. And then we're going to get this all cleaned up and get it painted and get it back together and get it operational. So I got 5 sets here now that I got to set up. All I did is I went through my junk pile, again, recycling. And I found this bit of round rod. All I'm going to do is I'm going to cut lengths, probably that long, and put these on a bit of an angle, just so they slips on over it. Simple, and then weld that onto the post, and then I'm going to drop them on there. Then I just positioned 2 of them, eyeballed them, and welded them in place. And then I put a straight edge up along here, and then just start laying up against it and eyeballing it. I never got carried away with it, okay? That's all they are to them, that's it. So the last modification is going to be a guide. What I want to have is that when you put a large piece of a panel across this here, and you want to run it through it, and you want to do a consistent bead, like on an edge or something like that, I want to have a guide along here somehow. That passes right through there, okay? And it's long enough that it's longer than the table itself. Okay, that's the first piece. So here's what I got done so far. I cut off a piece of that angle iron, and I got a sliver of metal put between that and the bottom of this here, so that when that goes up tight against that there, there's still a bit of play in it. And I clamped it on there, and then I put this in place and clamped it on both sides and took the square and squared it up to the table, okay? Then what I did is I got this here squared up on the table. I come over here. Now this is close here. I'm going to weld this on here. Now this 18 gauge, when you take it out, that's going to let this intersection here come in more, okay? And it'll pull the table over this way. That's what it'll do. They're all rounded out right nice. Both of them are rounded out on both ends, right? And that's the handle there, and just slips in the rail, and all you do then is you just loosen it up here, right? And that'll separate this bottom piece here, and it'll come apart like that, and then you slide that on, and then you can just pull it tight with that there, tighten it up. So now that I got this done, it's time to make this pretty. And there you have it, finished product. But like I rewired it all, I got it all done, tidied it all up, and got it all done. And just, you know, you see me do that in the last video. It's pretty straightforward how it was all done. Everything is contained in there. I went and tied everything up with some tie wires or some zip ties and stuff like that, just to tidy it up some. And that there, and of course then I painted the table itself on the bottom side. All that's painted as well. The stand is down as far as there is painted. Of course you see my switches. And I painted the crank, and then I just used an old gunmetal gray I had there on that, and that on the spring. So that'll all work there. Other than that, of course then I went and riveted on the table. I just positioned it and put a few rivets in it here and there, just to give it some strength. Seems like to run a few beads. How slow can we get this to go? We'll start off with a turned edge. I'm going to line this up on the guide down, just feed it through and put a straight edge on it. A little bit tighter again. Go through a second time. That's nice and straight. I'm going to use this line here now as a guide off the inside of the die. Stop here, turn it down a bit. Then I'm going to turn it. What's it like if I go backwards? I'll go back over that now. That's fine. Alright, so now I'm going to put a turn on. Nice and strength to that there now. It's pretty cool. I like that. It's working out really good. I can change the dies up, try different things with it, but you get the gist of it. You can see me slowing down, going reverse, how easy I can get to the dial, how good the table works, the guide, all that type of stuff. So I am very pleased with what I come up with here. Worked out great. It's a cheap bead roller with some modifications done with basic tools. And I bought some Amazon pieces. The rest is just made out of scrap. Okay, there's nothing here that I had to go out and purchase. Now, a lot of people just turn around and don't have nothing to start with, but like I've been gathering steel for years. You know, this is all shelving. This is an old shelf, scrap steel. That there was just like a piece of angle iron that I welded together and made a strip out of it. You know, it was not much to it. You know, there's a bit of round rod welded on there, a bit of square stock, a bit of framing from an old store display used to hold for the base for the table. So, and then up here you can just see, like, you know, the way it all mounts up here. Everything's best kind. It all can come clear now, and I can take that there and I can drop that down. I can get access to that panel there, make sure it all works good, right? Well, if you made it this far, you stayed to the end. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to go in to find out more details on this, I have a full series on this on my channel. I go right in depth on every aspect of the build itself. This here was just basically a little summary of the entire build to give you an idea of what you can do with a simple Chinese bead roller, okay? Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Go check out my merch. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. I hope the tips are good, and until next time.